Joshua. Joshua chapter 2. And this morning I want to talk a little bit about how God uses sometimes people who would be classified as having a questionable background. And we're going to read a story here about Rahab. And we're going to see how God uses her here in Joshua chapter 2. I'm going to be reading out of the NIV this morning because I think it was a little bit for me to understand. So Joshua chapter 2. I'm going to read the whole chapter. It says, Then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. It says, Go, look over the land, he said, especially Jericho. So they went, they entered into the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. And the king of Jericho, who was told, Look, some of the Israelites have come here to spy tonight, to spy on the land. So the king of Jericho sent this message to Rahab. Bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, because they have come to spy out the whole land. But the woman who had taken the 2 men and hidden them, and she said, Yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when it was time to close the city gate, they left. I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly, that you may catch up with them. But she had taken them up on the roof and had hidden them under stalks of flax she had laid out on the roof. So the men set out to pursue the spies on the road that leads to the fords of the Jordan. And as soon as the pursuers had gone out, the gate was shut. But before the spies laid down for the night, she went up to the roof and said to them, I know that the Lord had given you this land, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Shalon and Og, the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. And when we heard of it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on earth below. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and all who belong to them, and that you will save us from death. Our lives for your lives, the men assured her. If you do not tell what we are doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us the land. So she let down a rope through the window out of the house where she lived, and in was a part of the city wall. And she said to them, Go to the hills, so the pursuers will not find you. Hide yourselves there 3 days until they return, and then go your way. Now the men had said to her, This oath you made us swear will not be binding on us unless when we enter into the land, you have tied this scarlet cord on your window through which we let us down, and unless you have brought your mother and father and your brothers and all your family into your house, if any of them go outside of your house into the street, their blood will be on our heads. We will not be responsible. For as for those who are in your house, their blood will be on our heads if a hand is laid on them. But if you tell us what we are doing, we will be released from the oath you made us swear." "Agreed," she replied. "Let it be as you say." So she went away, and they departed, and she tied a scarlet cord in her window. And they left and went to the hills and stayed there 3 days, until the pursuers had searched all along the road and entered without finding them. Then the two men started back. They went down out of the hills, forded the river, and came to Joshua, the son of Nun, and told him everything that had happened to them. They said to Joshua, "The Lord has surely given the whole land into our hands, as the people there are melting in fear because of us." Okay, we have here in this story a woman named Rahab. Rahab is a prostitute. And this woman, she takes in the two spies who are come there to check out the city. And not only does she take them in and she saves their lives, because the king has heard that they are there to spy on him, and he is he wants them brought to him. And so she throws them off, throws the pursuers off, and she gives them some valuable information. She tells them that everyone in the city is afraid of their God and is just melting in fear, it says. So not only does she aid them, hides them, sends the pursuers off, she gives them information that they take back and they give to Joshua, and this helps them to know that they can go in to Jericho. All of this by this woman who, by most people, would be a questionable background. Now, our natural tendency as Christians is one of, probably would be a type of person that we would naturally want to avoid. Okay? If we were probably in this situation and we were told to go spy on the land of Jericho, more than likely we would probably not want to end up at the prostitute's house. This is not the best case scenario. All right? This is hopefully, if you all went, you wouldn't end up there. And if some of us did, we'd probably want to go, what's up with that? All right? But these men, they end up here at the prostitute's house. I don't know what they were doing there. I'm not gonna say. But God uses this woman and helps her, gives her guidance, and in return for her helping the men of God, she is spared. They come up with this little exchange, and the men say to her, "Well, if you will hang this scarlet cord in your window, when God hands over the city to us, everyone that is in your household will be spared, because we will see that scarlet cord. We will put the word out that when you go and you come to the house with the scarlet cord, nobody is in that house will be harmed." So that's exactly what happens. But had these men got into the city went to the house and said, well, y'all know what kind of establishment that is. They probably sit back, they're watching. They're there to watch the city. They probably saw the men coming in and coming out. Well, we're not going to go into that place. Judging others is what I want to talk about this morning. Because sometimes we feel like that someone who has questionable background, well, sometimes we feel like God can't use that person, or maybe we should avoid them. We were talking about that this morning in our Sunday school class, and how people who live differently from us, how we judge them, and how sometimes we kind of want to avoid them. Whether they're different, or they don't do the same things that we do, or they don't live the same way that we do, or for whatever means that we judge them as being, well, questionable. Their actions are questionable, and so we say, well, maybe we should not talk. Maybe we should avoid them. I don't know if it's just something that, and this is something that I constantly struggle with, and I'm just going to confess. You know, when I go somewhere and there are people who are different than myself, whatever reason, you know, number one is I'm not a real talkable person anyways. And I struggle with making conversation in the first place. But when I see someone that's different, it's really hard. But how are we ever going to witness to someone if we constantly remove ourselves from situations that we feel are questionable? You know, Jesus was always hanging out with these sinners. And the people of the day would say, well, if you knew that person, if you knew the type of woman this was that was kissing your feet, if you knew the type of man whose house that you went to, you wouldn't be going there. You wouldn't be letting her touch your feet. The religious people of the day were judging these people as being unworthy to touch the feet of Jesus. And when we refuse to go places because they are questionable people, we have judged them as unworthy to be in the presence of the Jesus that we bring with us. And when we judge them, judging is a two-way street. Well, they judge us back. Jesus was always getting in trouble with the religious people at the time. He was always working on the Sabbath. Healing people. They were picking food to eat. Boy, no Pharisees, no Sadducees. What kind of religious man does these types of things on the Sabbath? How quick they were to judge Jesus. Matthew chapter 7 verse 1 says, "Judge not, that ye be not judged. Luke 6:37. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. John 7:24. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteousness. Judge righteous judgment. A lot of scriptures there about judging. You see, the worst thing about when you judge someone else is you automatically put this barrier up. This boundary. And that boundary keeps you from sharing Jesus with them, and it keeps them from receiving any type of witness from you. Jesus says, I have come for the sick. Those who are well don't need what I bring. See, he was come for the sinner. And this is why oftentimes he was seen amongst the sinners. Because they were the people that needed his message. The religious people, they already had it all figured out. And they didn't want to hear anything that was different. They didn't want to have anything to do with anything that Jesus was trying to help them with. But the sinners, when they received the message, they loved Jesus. This morning I just want to ask you, do you love Jesus like that sinner woman that fell at his feet? Who cried tears and she washed his feet with her tears and her hair? Or are we like the man who invited Jesus to his house and didn't even so much as give him a drink of water? Do we love Jesus this morning? Do we love Him enough to be able to go out and to be able to take the message to those who are different from us, those sinners, those people who are lost, those people who are struggling with this or that or whatever? Or do we just sit back on our throne and make judgments? This morning, as we have a song of invitation, I want you to ask yourself, do I love the lost as Jesus did? Do I love them enough to sit down and have a conversation? Do I love them enough to want to give them the truth? Or do I just want to run and hide, surround myself with people who think like I think, who act the way I act, who believe the same things that I believe? That's what the religious people did at Jesus' time. They judged Jesus for someone who was doing the wrong stuff. The very one who created it all. As we sing this morning.